namaskritta naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. Shrivata swakata Krishna punya shavana kirtana Haryantaho sya bhatarani ananoti savitsatam Ashta preshiva badrishu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati tamashloke bhakti bhagavati naishtati. Prabhus, Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:14-43. We'll start with Mangacharan and continue on with the verses. Om Gyan Trimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Nitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagadhamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sahagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Scha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutare Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachadine Nevishesha Sunyavadi Prastyatya Deshatarine Panchakarpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavandayaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauraviche Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Kopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Stute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Hare Krishna Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. As you can see, Krishna Prabhu, please pray for me that I can speak something nicely for the pleasure of Guru Gauranga and the Vaishnavas, all of you assembled, and that we can gain something from what I'm inspired to speak. The parrots of Vrindavan are trained so nicely to speak the glories of Krishna. And Brinda Devi will bring them and to speak the glories of Radha and Krishna while they're relaxing with all their sakis and sakas under the trees of Vrindavan. One such parrot speaks something very nice that I wanted to share. He says that the glories of Krishna are so great. He says that even though I have no ability to speak nicely, I'm not poetic, not learned, but a single syllable that is spoken in connection with the lotus feet of Krishna becomes glorious. Just as an iron blade that is touched with touchstone becomes gold, anything that one speaks, even if it's not eloquent or poetic, when it's in connection with Krishna, it's all glorious. One who can remember the lotus feet of Krishna, their senses become fixed. So one senses can become controlled and and focused when one remembers the lotus feet of Krishna. So this is the parrots of Vrindavan speaking. So what to speak of me? I have no ability to do anything, but because the topic will be centered around Krishna, I have confidence that it somehow will please all of you. So please bless me that I can speak clearly. As you can see, we have first canto, 14th chapter, verse 43. Api svit parya bhuktasvam ambojan vritta vadakam yuj upisitam karma kinchit kritvana yad askamam api svit parya bhuktasvam sambhojan vritta vadakam yupusitam karma kinchit Avanayat Akshamam. Anybody want to repeat the verse?
Apispit paryabhunthastam sambhojyan vriddhabalakan jugupsitam karma kinche kritavan nayadakshamam. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Apisvit paryabhunktastvam sambhojyan vritta balakan jugupsitam karma kinchet kritavanna yad aksamam. Thank you, Prabhu.
Anybody else?
Yes, Prabhu, I can try, Prabhu. Api swit paryam bhunktasvam sambojyan vrida balakam juhupsitam karma kinchit kritavan yad akshamam. Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhu.
Listen.
Anyone else? Peace fit. Word for word synonyms and translation by His Divine Grace and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Happy svit. If it were so that. Paryam, by leaving aside. Bhunktaha, having dined. Tvam, yourself. Sambhojayan, deserving to dine together. Ritaha, the old men. The old men. Balakan, boys. Jugu pisitam, abominable. Karma, action. Kinchit, something. Kritavan, you must have done. Not yet. That which. Akshamam, unpardonable. Translation and purport. Have you not taken care of old men and boys who deserve to dine with you? Have you left them to take your meals alone? Have you committed some unpardonable mistake, which is considered to be abominable? Purport. Is the duty of a householder to first feed all the children, old members of the family, the brahmanas, and the invalids. Besides that, an ideal householder is required to call for any unknown hungry man to come and dine with him. He himself goes to take his meals. Before he goes to take his meals, he is required to call for such hungry man thrice on the road. The neglect of this prescribed duty of a householder, especially in the manner of old men and children, is unpardonable. This becomes a little bit hard in the West, where we look outside and I'm looking outside right now, all I see is trees and cars. I don't see dogs or people walking around. So it becomes a little hard to go, Haribol, anybody who wants to eat, come. Anybody who wants to eat, come. Anybody who wants to eat, come, suppose we could do it out of principle, but you know, but as you know, householders, we can invite devotees over. We can invite guests. Maybe if we have somebody who seems favorable at work, we can invite them for prasadam, and you know, gradually by the taking prasad, they will purify their heart like that, right? So there's different ways we can, you know, do this to help inspire some, you know, to follow this to help follow to kind of follow this process Srila Prabhupada's saying here, because one of the important parts of being a householder is charity. And then not only that, but one of the 6 loving exchanges that Srila Rupa Goswami is to, you know, honor food and to share food with others, right? With intimate friends. So we get together and we can have prasad and share prasad. And this is one of the loving exchanges that Rupa Goswami speaks in the Upadeshamrita, nectar of instruction. Srila Prabhupada translates as nectar of instruction. So these are some, you know, some ways that we can do this when there's nobody outside to call it. And depending on where you are, if you're in downtown Portland or something, maybe some homeless folks, you know, we have some devotees who cook and then they go out and distribute prasadam for the homeless people. And that's very nice, you know. So it's Food for Life program. So if you can't do it yourself, you can sponsor things like that for Food for Life. Different devotees around the world will do relief, prasadam relief, things like that. So there's ways we can help like this, you know. So when I think about this verse, I think about etiquette, right? So the old men, the young children, not only old men, the old members of the family, and you know, we feed them first, you know, and then brahmanas and invalids. This one I haven't heard before, but you know, those who are in need, right? The children, they need to eat. The old people, they need their strength, you know. So they've sacrificed so much of their time and energy for the family. So we honor that, we respect that, you know. And the brahmanas are, you know, relying on the true brahmanas who are living a brahminical life. They don't work unless there's some emergency. They work for themselves sometimes, but generally they're engaged in spiritual activities for the welfare of others. So it's important to provide for such personality. So these are some thoughts for this verse. We'll read the next one and then kind of like try and conclude this chapter and then open it up for some discussion. Kachit prishta tamintaha Vidyanatma bandhuna Suryosmi rahito nityam Manyase te nyata naruk Kinchit, whether Prishta tamin unto the most dear one, Ata, my brother Arjuna, Hridena, Hridayena, most intimate, Atma Bandhuna, own friend Lord Krishna. Sunyaha, void, Asmi, I am, Rahitaha, having lost, Nityam, for all time. Manyase, you think, te, your, Anyata, otherwise, na, never, ruk, mental distress. Translation. Or is it that you are feeling empty for all time because you have lost your most intimate friend, Lord Krishna? Oh, my brother Arjuna, I can think of no other reason for your becoming so dejected. Purport. All the inquisitive all the inquisitiveness of Maharaj Yudhisthira about the world situation was already conjectured by Maharaj Yudhisthira on the basis of Lord Krishna's disappearance from the vision of the world. And this was now disclosed by him because of the acute dejection of Arjuna, which could not have been possible otherwise. So even though he was doubtful about it, he was obliged to inquire frankly from Arjuna on the basis of Sri Narada's indication. Thus ends the Bhaktivinoda purports of the first canto, 14th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Disappearance of Lord Krishna. Jai. So I was thinking, like, all our Maharaj Yudhisthira went through this whole long thing. If you remember from the previous chapter, Vidura came back from a big pilgrimage during the Battle of Kurukshetra. He left, right? Heard so many wonderful instructions. And he knew of the disappearance of all of the Yadus. So when he returned, he didn't say anything because he didn't want to upset the heart, right, of the Pandavas. I can't remember if Lord Krishna hadn't left yet, because Krishna wanted to first wrap up his descendants. Then he was going to wrap up his pastimes. And so all these things must have happened in, really close succession. I'm not sure of the exact timeline in the history, but we understand that Narada Muni came to inform Yudhisthira Maharaj in the last chapter of what had happened to Dhritarashtra, right? And he indicated at one point that, the Yadus were going to wrap up the pastimes. Krishna was wrapping up the pastimes with the Yadus before his departure. So Yudhisthira Maharaj had some inclination that this must be the reason, because so many inauspicious things are happening. I can't understand. And then while he's explaining to Bhima, you remember, Arjuna appeared. He's very sad looking. Think for a second, just close your eyes and you think about Krishna being your best friend. Maybe he is your best friend. I don't know. And then he leaves the planet. Oh, how painful that must be. Arjuna is experiencing this. This is what he's experiencing. That what did he call it? Hriday Atma Bandhana, most intimate friend. Hriday, his most intimate, loving friend is like his life and soul, right? They used to lay on the couch together and used to converse and laugh, probably maybe tease each other a little bit like friends do. Wow, when your friend leaves, think in this world, when somebody dear to your heart leaves, it's devastating. How much Arjuna must be feeling. It's intense. It's unfathomable. And he comes back. So this is the scene in which Maharaj Yudhisthira is inquiring. He's asking one after another things that could be wrong, and finally he ends on the thing that he must be dreading the most. Krishna left the planet? No, right? He's probably, as we say, we're crossing your fingers. I hope that's not the case. But what else could it be? Oh, his heart must be throbbing. So I was thinking, like, oh, how does one deal? If you read through Madhurya Kanamini, the Premi Bhaktas, he explains Prema Bhakti. And those devotees who are experiencing prema, Krishna will appear in the mind, and then he'll disappear. And this is like 1,000 daggers to the heart. But when one feels separation from Krishna, it's not like the pain of this world. It's a different type of ecstasy. It's a different type of unbelievable spiritual bliss. It's not even fathomable within this world. And as we understand that without separation, the union is not so sweet. But this is separation in which union is not going to happen again. And in this particular pastime, he left the planet. He's gone. The only way to remember is to remember instructions. Somebody have a comment? Want to speak? I heard some voice. Okay. So,
Sorry, Prabhu, I was clearing my throat.
Hare Krishna. You want to say something, Prabhu?
No, I was clearing my throat. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry. Hare Krishna. So, so later we'll see. I think if I remember correctly from reading the next chapter, Arjuna will say something that like the only thing that's keeping him together is the instructions that he received from Krishna, the instructions from the battle of Kurukshetra, which we know as the Bhagavad Gita. So same thing with Uddhav, right? Uddhav was there when Krishna was leaving. Again, his best friend is leaving. He's seeing him depart this world. And so his only shelter was to follow his instructions, go to Bajik ashram, preach to the Vidura, like these different things, right, that he was instructed to do. I can't remember all of them now, but so Srila Prabhupada would say, I think before I say that, I think the only thing that we can really, maybe have some inkling of would be when the guru leaves this world. Srila Prabhupada said there's no time that I wasn't in connection with my spiritual master because of following his instructions, remembering his instructions. So this is how we, can connect again and again with Guru, with Krishna, when Guru leaves the planet, or even when Guru's not with us, right? Our Guru is not here with us now. He's doing some other seva somewhere, right? But we remember the instructions of the spiritual master, and we feel that connection. We remember Krishna's instructions. So this is how the devotees, these devotees, like that. Uddhava tried this with the Vrijbasis, right? Remember, Krishna sends him to Vrindavan, but the Vrijbasis' prema is on a whole different level. So he's trying to speak these things, right? But they don't see Krishna as the Supreme Lord. So he says, Krishna is this, he's the Supreme Brahman. He's everywhere. He's in everything. He's in your heart. Remember him in there. They say, how can we? Mother Yashoda's like, what is in my heart? How can I feed my kana? How can I feed Krishna? Who will suck the milk from my breast? He's in my heart. It doesn't make any sense. This doesn't work. for the Vrajbasis. So Uddhav was bewildered. What kind of prema are they experiencing? This is Vrindavan is beyond all these things. Their love for Krishna isn't based on his being the Supreme Lord. It's based on the relationship. So so you know, so in the coming chapters we'll see how, you know, what the Pandavas decide from here. But in this verse, Yudhisthira Maharaj is, as Srila Prabhupada says here, where he's so even though he is doubtful about it, he was obliged to require frankly. He just wanted to know directly, Arjuna, is this what's happening? Because if this is what's happening, we got to get out of here, you know. Because Kali Yuga is coming. I see all the signs, you know, and let's just go. So the next chapter is Pandavas depart. So we'll see what the Pandavas decide to do. But Arjuna, from what I remember, has some things he shares, right? So so we have these examples. So when, you know, we feel some you know, I don't know if this will connect properly, but you know, as sadhana bhaktas, I'll say it because I'm feeling some inspiration in my mind. We'll see if I can articulate it properly. You know, as sadhana bhaktas, especially for those like me in anishtita bhakti, where sometimes we're really connected and other times we're really not connected. We're having to really struggle because the mind wants to go here and there to all these different things. Sense objects attract the mind and the senses, right? And they take us away, and we have to pull back and, you know, refocus ourselves. So Krishna, you know, it's all these wonderful pastimes to help us, because this is the only thing, you know, for those of us who are, you know, some of it, or I don't know how many people who are not in our community who listen to these classes, but you know, we have the great fortune of Hari Parvshat Prabhu being here, and he's spoken so many wonderful things. And one of the things that maybe it's just because it's speaking to me because it's relatable, but you know, one of the things is how important it is to stay connected in the process of bhakti, because the mind will want to wander off into the realms of sense enjoyment, because that is what's attractive to it right now. The mind and the senses, they want to enjoy their objects. Well, the senses want to enjoy the objects, and the mind is conditioned to wanting to give the senses what they want. But this process of Krishna consciousness is really taking the mind, right? Krishna consciousness. The consciousness is within the mind. So we connect the mind of hearing and chanting the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna. And the more that we can do that, if we know Krishna's qualities, we can connect Krishna in pretty much anything we see or observe in this world. Krishna's pastimes are so wonderful, whether it's in Vrindavan or Mathura or Dwarka, or in other forms like Lord Ram or Vamandev or Rahadev or Narasimhadev, whatever it may be. We heard, you know, Lord, or Lord Vishnu, right, the maintainer of the universe. Whatever, if we hear and absorb ourselves as much as possible, and the times where our mind or senses are being dragged away from here and there, different places, we can have some substance to bring it back and refocus it on the object of our affection, Krishna. And this is really what sadhana bhakti is all about, is continuously practicing to remember Krishna through chanting the holy name, through serving the deity, serving the devotees, to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, we can learn so much etiquette of how the Vaishnavas interact with each other, their taste, what we can, expect later in the more developed stages of bhakti, right? So much wonderful ways that we can connect, and we have to find that thing within that way that connects the mind and the heart with remembering Krishna. And even when the struggles are there and we're giving into some satisfaction of the senses, that even if it's unfavorable, we can remember Krishna, we can pray, we can beg to always remember and never forget his lotus feet. Anyway, those are some thoughts. Anybody have some thoughts they want to share on these two verses?
Thank you, Prabhuji, for speaking and giving the lecture today. I know you're very busy too. As Prabhuji said, that this will, encourage our process of remembering Krishna. And so very aptly, His Grace Hari Prasad Prabhu is going to be speaking on Sri Krishna Smaranam today and for the next 2 days. So that'll be nice to hear that as well. Does anybody want to share thoughts or, I guess, reflections, questions?
3 days, right? 3 classes.
Yeah, like today and the next Monday, Tuesday.
So wonderful. This topic of Krishna Smara is so important, because we can go on chanting. What do they say? We can go on chanting for millions of lifetimes and we cannot attain prema. Because if the mind is not engaged in the process, then it doesn't affect the heart in such a way that is needed. So we have to keep Krishna in the mind, remembrance. Thanks, Prabhu.
Yeah. So there'll be more expansion, I presume it, on this topic, and many devotees have written a lot on this topic, obviously. So it's very deep. But devotees want to have discussion about our questions on the 2 verses that Prabhuji read.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Pranam. Thank you, Prabhu, for summarizing both these verses. Can you scroll a little up, Prabhu, to this verse?
To the what? To the verse?
This verse, yeah, this verse. Especially the third line, Prabhu, Sunya Asmi Rahita Nityam. So, after multiple speculative inquiries from Maharaj Yudhishthir, he finally asked that question, right? Okay, is that feeling of empty for all time, because you might have lost your intimate friend? Like, ultimately, he's talking about Krishna's departure here, right? So, My question is, so when this is about the heart of a genuine devotee, right? When separated from Krishna, basically it talks about Arjuna's inner void, of an elevated devotee, right? How to understand that, and how can we reflect on the spiritual expression, experience of separation? Even if you see Goswami's talks about the Vipralamba, right? Association and separation. And I just want to hear from you on, like, how can we classify the association and separation with Lord Krishna?
Well, I think the only real way to experience it is to actually experience it. To understand it is to actually experience it, right? I've not seen Krishna face to face. I can see the deity, but I'm not experiencing Krishna. So I have no real practical experience, right? But but we can relate that to someone that's dear to us. We have our best friend, and they go to some place, we don't see them for some time, or like husband and wife, sometimes they separate for some time. One goes to India, after some time they come back, and it's like, oh, it feels nice to have them back for some time, and then the quarreling starts again, and you're like, okay, go back to India or something, right? So but without separation, union isn't as sweet. So with separation, it makes the union that much more sweet. So that's one point. That, but like I was saying, that if we experience a loss in this world, then that's really dear to us, then we can have some understanding. And if we put ourselves in Arjuna's shoes, so to speak, then we can begin to feel the rasa that he's feeling, right? When we just read it like, okay, he left this world, okay, bas, finished. But if you try to put yourself in the experience, that your most intimate friend, right? We hear about, haven't read Mahabharata, but I've heard the devotees explain the way that Arjuna and Krishna interact in Mahabharata. And it's very sweet, right? You've read, Prabhu? I'm sure you've heard, you probably grew up hearing these.
Heard, but not read, probably.
You've heard these stories. So it's like, so we can take that, and when we've experienced the loss of somebody dear, how much more dear is Krishna to Arjuna, right? Our best friend, or our wife, or our children, or our mother, or our sister, or our brother, or someone in our life that's dear to us has left. It's devastating. So Krishna is our, he was sustaining the Pandavas, right? When the Pandavas needed him, he was always there, right? Durvas Muni came. I think it was Durvas Muni. And they were living in the forest. And we all know the reputation of Durvas Muni. He gets angry very easily, right? And he came to eat. And all they had was I forget what it's called, this patra, this plate, right? That would give food for as much, time. I think it ended at noon or something, right? So he came at noon when it was done. They're thinking, what do we do? Right? And suddenly they saw the dust coming from that side. And Krishna comes on his chariot to save it. Right? So many times Krishna saved them. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he's seeing the universal form. He's thinking, how many times did we joke, you know? What do friends do? Sometimes they punch each other in the arm, right? Sometimes they make fun like that, right? I'm sure this was happening even then. We see how the cowherd boys interacted with Krishna, right? So they were wrestling and, you know, calling names and, you know, so many things, right? So I'm sure Arjuna and Krishna had some, maybe it was a little more formal, right? Because that was, you know, it's not Vrindavan, but this intimacy was so great, right? So if we can somehow relate to the pastime from Arjuna's perspective, I don't know, that's probably, does that help answer your question, or are you looking?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, definitely, Prabhu. One follow-up question is, as definitely, as you mentioned, right? As sadhakas, as practitioners, we will not be able to experience that feeling, but definitely we can feel that. Again, I mean, I believe, like in one of our previous lectures, Jai Sachin and Prabhu, that feeling and experiencing, we can definitely feel like if we need to relate this verse to our practice, our if our connection to Krishna weakens, I mean, if we can relate that way, I mean, obviously that separation, like if my connection, I mean, if my connection or the practice of bhakti weakens, will I feel that lack of void? Or, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm putting my question here properly. I mean, that void will not be able to experience, but in order to feel that, the void, if my connection weakens, like because of various anarthas or whatnot, will I be, I mean, what kind of feeling, what kind of, I mean, because of my impurities, or what kind of state can I experience that feeling as a sadhaka, the separation or the void?
I don't know, I can't think of any specific praman that says when one experiences. I think in Madhurya Kandamini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that in the stages of bhava and prema, one begins to really experience this vipralamba, this separation, because now one is getting glimpses called spurtis, right? Spurtis of Krishna begin. When they begin, and you start seeing Krishna in your meditation, your smarana, chanting or something, sometime in a dream maybe, or something like that, Krishna appears. And then generally the devotee first is explained that because they can't contain in their consciousness Krishna, they lose consciousness. And when they regain consciousness, Krishna is not there anymore. And so tears come, right? So when we're experiencing, when we're begging for prema, we're begging for Krishna's association, for Krishna's company, for like that, and we don't get it, this should ignite the fire of our great desire. And when that desire, that longing is strong enough, then one weeps for it. Krishna, Srila Prabhupada would say we should cry for Krishna. And if we can't cry for Krishna, we should cry that we're not crying for Krishna. So if we're not crying to cry for Krishna, we should at least pray to cry for Krishna. We should pray for that intensity. We should pray for that longing. So I don't think one can really experience separation from Krishna unless one experiences Krishna first. to the degree that these prema bhaktis, we can't until prema is, arises in the heart. We can't experience that. But we can sympathize to some degree because we know what it feels like to be separated from somebody. So if we can see how much love these devotees have for Krishna, and then we empathize from our perspective of what we've experienced in our mature life and connect that with Krishna and realize that it's such a higher degree that that separation is so much more. Wow. Then we can start to connect the heart. That's at least my, primitive understanding and realization. I don't have proper Shastra Praman to maybe call out specific verses, but I hope that helps some.
Definitely, Prabhu. And definitely the key takeaway from what you just said is like cry for help. Like, in fact, like inside our heart, my bhakti is not that great. At that level, right? Like to have that separation. Like first of all, I need to develop that prema. Only then I can do that. Like in order to do that, one need to cry for Krishna because he is already not there.
It comes together, right? The more it's if you were to take a fire, when you first start a fire, have you ever started a fire, Prabhu?
With a matchbox, Prabhu.
You ever started like a campfire, like outside where you have like a little place, or you've only lit a match to light something?
Just with a matchbox, or not with rocks.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. Rubbing sticks together like that. Okay, so you have a little fire, right? You have a little fire pit, right? And you have these little sticks, like, sometimes you make a little teepee, right? And you strike your matchbox and you put it, and you maybe have paper, you have some little kindling, right? You light it, and the first, it's small, right? A little fire, and then you put more fuel in it, it gets bigger and bigger. Right? But you can't put big fuel right away, or it just puts the fire out, right? So the more you feed it, so the more, so it goes hand in hand. The more that one desires Krishna, the more one gets Krishna. But so the more one desires, I guess you should say, the more one desires, and one doesn't see the result of what one desires, because Krishna doesn't reveal himself right away, right? Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, what does it say? He's saying that it's difficult, right? I don't remember the Sanskrit. So it takes a long time, right? It's not, Krishna doesn't give himself right away, right? It takes time. It's a gradual process, right? So, but for the sadhaka, when that longing is really strong, tears come because one is begging over and over, begging, Krishna, 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 always trying to remember, always remembering, always chanting, always hearing, always associating, always begging for prema, for seva. And one's, it's not coming, right? Krishna prema not coming. And then some tears may come. But only when the longing is strong enough. But the problem is we have longing for other things. That longing for Krishna isn't strong enough, right? So we have to find those devotees whose longing is strong and associate with them, and then it rubs off, right? Just like the iron rod in fire. Put it in fire and eventually it becomes fire. But it doesn't happen right away, right? It heats up gradually. But once it's hot, it's non-different than fire. Anything it touches, fire, right? So we have to keep ourselves in the association and company of those devotees who has that. And if we don't have that association, we should beg for that association, and we should find it. And like Ramananda Rai would, I think there's somewhere one verse, right, when we see that those devotees who have that lobha, that greed, that intensity, wherever we can get it, we should purchase it right away, because that is what we need. We need that greed, that rag. Right now we have rag for sense enjoyment, right? It doesn't take much for the senses to say, yes, I want that. You don't have to talk the senses into it, right? We have to somehow or other, by the mercy of Guru, Gauranga, and the Vaishnavas, that we have to transfer that greed from that rag, from the objects of the senses to Krishna. And with Krishna's mercy or a devotee who has it, those are the two ways. And Krishna's mercy is explained that it's rare. So we have to find that devotee.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Haribol. Thanks for patiently answering all my questions. Thank you. Please excuse me if it doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
Oh, no, it was great. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to think, and hopefully it was correct. That's what I understand from devotees that I have heard from. Anything else from you?
I liked your statement that one has to experience Krishna first before you can experience separation. So that was nice statement. Do any of the other devotees? Mansi Ganga Mataji said that she liked your the discussion that you had, or the class that you had. She had to, I think, sign out. So thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, so I think of it kind of like, that you're a very simple Brahman is like, ye tamam prapadyante. As Srila Prabhupada in the class said, as a devotee always thinks of Krishna, similarly Krishna always thinks of the devotee. And then he says he thinks more. So he said, if you think of Krishna 24 hours a day, then Krishna will think of you 24 hours a day. So I think His Holiness Badrinath Swami, when he was here, started us off on this chapter. And we can see the elevation of the Pandavas. They feel such dejection and Yudhishthira Maharaj has such a profound relationship with Sri Krishna that he can detect the absence of Sri Krishna in his life. Whereas, the common man, us or me, can't detect the absence of Krishna because the connection is not, strong. So I think it's a reason why people look for happiness, because they fail to realize that which is the true source of their happiness, not just a temporary relief of misery. I was reading the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and he says that a yogi is one who realizes that in the nature of the material world is misery. But not just that, but that every attempt to relieve that misery is not successful. There has to be that realization. That's why I think Srila Prabhupada spent so much time, kind of talking about the negatives of the material world. And when those two are combined, then that leads to search for happiness. And Bhakti Yoga's unique quality is that it takes two to be happy, Krishna and devotee. So, I think at least Yudhishthira Maharaj is experiencing separation from Krishna, and he's realizing that the unhappiness in Arjuna is due to something very profound. So I think, and I heard a lecture on this a while back, saying, Krishna returns his debts in a way. When, if we feel the separation, then he will feel separation as well. Just like the examples that were given in that lecture was just like Sudama brings to Krishna some chipped rice, and Bhagwan, gives him a golden palace. Kubja gives him some sandalwood paste, and he just straightens her back and makes her a beautiful girl. The Brajvasis offer him bhoga in the form of Govardhan, and he lifts Govardhan to protect them. So I thought those are nice examples of Krishna's immediate and effortless reciprocation. But I think on a deeper level, when you talked about Arjun, Shri Arjun, you can, basically you can see Bhaktiras manifesting in Arjun in this situation, because he has this, sthai bhav of Sakhya, friendship, and the separation of Krishna is acting like a stimulant for that bhav. And then it's manifesting in the beginning of this chapter. It talks about how tears are gliding down his lotus face and he's becoming pale. Those are, anubhavs and sattvika bhavs that are coming out. And the combination of the sthai bhav with vibhav, anubhav, sattvika bhav generates bhakti ras. That's what he's feeling. It's coming out as dejection, but it's considered by the acharyas a profound state of happiness for the soul, because we don't have that that sthai bhav in us, so it's hard. That's why Sri Rupa Goswami says that Sakhya and Atma Nivedana are very hard because they don't fit into societal norms. Of course, conjugal is probably even harder, but it's a very wonderful chapter. It's a sad chapter, but it reminds me kind of like the Prokshavad that Prabhuji was talking about yesterday. Where Shri Advaita Acharya tells Mahaprabhu in a very whimsical, not whimsical, I mean in a very riddle way. He called it a riddle, Praheli, but that you're not needed in the marketplace anymore, and this is kind of like essentially, that's what Krishna is hearing, that your job is done. You can move on. So
It's the painful part of the pastimes of Krishna, where he separates.
Yeah, I think, but without the pain, the ecstasy of separation is not there. But it's one thing to think about this intellectually and theoretically, but to experience it, like you said, requires. I was reading about Rati a while back, and Sri Rupa Goswami says Rati requires two things: intense sadhana, and it requires samskaras from past life and present life that are favorable towards it. Rati meaning bhav, and that we need those two things as a sadhaka, and something we have some control of, and other we just don't. Like samskaras and past life. But the fact that we're we've received the mercy of Guru, like you said, indicates that we do have some samskaras, that came in. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be in this path.
That's what sadhana bhakti is about, right? The definition is to that which
Generates bhava.
Yeah, generates bhava. So these are the anishtita bhakti or just sadhana bhakti is that process in which it's building those samskaras.
Yes. I was reading that all sadhana bhakti, like samskaras are at the level of the chitta, which is kind of like the subconscious mind, storehouse of all past memories and the experience we had. And it's not really at the level of the mind. And so all sadhana bhakti is working at the level of chitta to, to elevate those favorable impressions we had of reciprocation with the bhakti, and to kind of diminish those other impressions of or experiences, what Sri Rupa Goswami calls it, that we have, for something like somebody gives us neem ice cream and we'll remember from our past life we ate some neem and it's like, oh, that was heavy, that was bitter. And the chitta relates that information to the buddhi, and the buddhi tells the manas, no, don't go there. And somebody gives us, nice mango ice cream, we say, oh, mango is really tasty. The manas proposes the question to the chitta does a screening and says, yeah, it was a good experience. And then the buddhi tells manas, okay, go for it. Yeah. So the Acharyas say that usually sadhana bhakti is at the level of the chitta. And so,
I said I heard one sadhu say that this Cheto Dharpanam Bhajanam, we're chanting. Yes. Lord Chaitanya says it cleanses the mirror of the heart. So this cleansing process, it's that level. And it is cleansing the abhiman. Right now we have the chitta is in relationship to this material body, but it's so that we can realize our spiritual identity.
Mm-hmm.
That's the deep cleaning that is happening by chanting.
Right. Because Chaitanya Chariprabhu has this book called Mind It. It was, I think, he came out a while back, and he said, do you see throughout the world this kind of, I guess in the kind of the populated quite a bit of statements about mindfulness. Mindfulness, you should be mindful of this and that. And he said, bhakti is not acting on that level of the. Oftentimes in Shastra, manas is kind of equated to many different things. And in the Western world, manas, mind, means just one thing. But as Prabhuji explained to that devotee who asked, what's mind, Narottam Vilas Prabhu's house, what is manas and what is chitta? And they're two different things. And I think that's why, because our chitta has so many other tastes, that's why, things like chanting the holy name or hearing Shastra or reading Shastra is not so immediately pleasant because of that. So yeah, I mean, even Bhakti Rasa, Sri Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur talks about this in the commentary from Kali Karnapur, that it is a straight state of wonder for the chitta, where he says that the external and internal become one and become lost, and you don't feel the external anymore as something different than what's internal. Whereas right now, our external and internal probably is not one. So these are like you said, profound statements, and it's that acharyas make. And I think to say it is one thing. Like you said, I mean, you have to experience some rasa with Krishna in order to experience the rasa of separation. Otherwise, it just becomes like a story. I mean, so many kids in India have read these comic books of Krishna's activities and the Devata's activities and all these leelas, but there's very little rasa in those because because janma karma chame divyam, we don't know the tattva. So, anyways, this, you think of all these things and then you think of I mean, a serious devotee will say, "Oh, when will that day be mine?" But people like me who have no seriousness, it's like, this is. You read about it and you think, yeah, that's really nice, but I have to have a seriousness about it, sincerity of intent and purpose. Would you like to add anything else, Prabhuji? I don't want to take over your lecture.
Anything you want to add? Doing some other stuff.
Maybe busy with kids. So you'll be leaving tonight or this afternoon?
It's still being recorded. Oh, this isn't live streamed.
It is.
No.
It is live stream. Yeah, I have my phone, Babu, so I can't stop the live.